An AntiWork Reddit moderator goes on Fox News, and it's exactly as you imagine. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee because I want to have a talk about a disaster interview that happened with a Reddit moderator going on to Fox News, a moderator from the AntiWork movement, everyone. Now, the AntiWork movement, this is growing in popularity, and I honestly think the way it's portrayed, and in this case by Fox News with this particular moderator, and their take on it in some ways is a little unfair. Now, it rubs me the wrong way, the idea of people not having to work. If you don't work, you don't eat. I honestly expect, unless you have accumulated enough wealth and built yourself in a position where you can rest, you need to work. And it's naive to think that you can get away without working. That's the natural state of people in a survival situation is to work. And that's how you better yourself, and that's how you achieve things. But you also don't want to enter into the workforce with this naive sense that the people you're working for give a shit about you in the slightest. Their objective is to maximize their profits for their business, and sure, they will care about you if it's a smaller business usually, but in some of the larger corporates, when they have particularly human resources departments, they do not give a care in the slightest. So I thought we will go through this interview and then have a look at some of the comments from those of you, because this is a stereotypical interview. In some ways, they're being really unfair bringing this person on for the interview because it's highlighting all of these stereotypes that we think for anti-work. It's not highlighting the fact that there's some real shit jobs, some real terrible conditions, and people don't want to put up with that, and that's fair. I completely agree with that, 100%. I don't think you should be like my neighbor, sitting on their ass, smoking pot at 8 a.m. in the morning and then bitching and moaning that the world is unfair, because that's a little different. That's being a lazy bludger and a drain on society, pretty much. Where if you are building yourself up and want to do something good, that's a little different. But the thing is, frankly, if you frame yourself as a victim and blame others in the systems, as opposed to, that's how it is, I've got to better myself, that's going to be the difference. So let's have a look at this, guys, and let's see if you're surprised by this interview at all.
Over 1.6 million subscribers. Joining me now is the
So you can see here the growth of this anti-work Reddit page. Since 2020, 2021, 2022, it's just skyrocketed. And I talked about something similar when we started having the lockdowns, that it would be the first opportunity some people would have to step back, to reevaluate their lives, to see what they were doing. They were stuck in a rat race. They were stuck in a job they hated. They were stuck in a position they didn't like. And maybe for some, this is the first time they realized, I'm not putting up with that. And in some ways, that's a good thing. But is that really anti-work? Or is that wanting to better yourself?
Person who operates this anti-work group, Doreen Ford. All right, so Doreen, why do you like the idea of being home, not working, but still getting paid by corporate America?
Now, the Fox News reporter, he's playing to his audience. He's playing to his demographic. We can all understand this, and we can be, a little mean to the Redditor, who is the stereotypical person in their garage or basement. I can't say I'm much different, although I'm in my little detached studio out the back. But you can see here how they're framing, and he's just playing to his audience for getting the views, and we're all watching it, and it's doing the rounds.
Yeah. So there's some misconceptions about the movement. So we're a movement where we want to reduce the amount of work that people feel like they're forced to do. And so we want to still put in effort. We want to put in labor, but we don't want to necessarily be in a position where we feel trapped, Now,
I completely agree with that. Now, here's the thing. I would advocate that everyone needs to work in order to better yourself, to provide for your family, particularly if you have responsibilities. Sitting on your ass doing nothing, idle hands, everyone. you're going to get into mischief, you're going to waste your life away faster than you can even realize. But you don't want to be at the grindstone and not getting ahead. That's the issue. And I think a lot of people are trapped in jobs where they're not getting ahead. And then they need to reevaluate and sort their life out. That's all on them. That's what I'd argue. I'd say it's all on them as the individual. Sure, we've been fed a whole lot of bullshit. You know, go to university, get a degree, buy a house, do this, jump through this hoop, jump through this hoop. It'll all be roses. It's utter crap. And sometimes you need to go through the hard times to realize that and to learn that. And I think for some people, this anti-work movement is the beginning of that journey, that step. And some of them will go full hardcore Marxist, just in anger at all the bullshit they've been fed. The biggest thing in the US is the student debt. The student debt. They just need to the only change, let people bankrupt out of it. Let them bankrupt out of it. Yeah, they should make that happen. And that'll fix up the whole system real quick.
You just quoted from Office Space, where that person feels very trapped in their job. I think we're calling for a society where there's less of that. But yeah, absolutely, people still want to do things. They just want to do things where they feel rewarded and they feel like they're in a good spot in their life, and that their job respects them and stuff like that.
What's wrong with that? But again, that's up to the individual. You need to position your life in such a way that you're not trapped. And I honestly think there are going to be people in the States that are trapped because of the mountain of debt that they've incurred. So it's kind of sad in a way.
You know, there's varying.
So Doreen, but you're not being forced to work. This isn't slave labor. You've applied for a job. You've agreed to the terms and conditions of the employment, and you know you can walk away from that job at any time and quit. So I don't understand really what this is about. Sure. Except it sounds like maybe people are just being lazy. Are you encouraging people to be lazy?
That's the initial response I would have too, just hearing anti-work. It shouldn't be called anti-work, honestly. It should be called respecting or respectful work, or respecting yourself to the point where you don't put up with the crap.
So I think laziness is a virtue in a society where people constantly want you to be productive 24/7, and it's good to have rest. That doesn't mean you should be resting all the time or not putting effort into things that you care about. But I think one of the
what do you think is like a good work day? How many hours?
He's referring to some traditional and older philosophies about actually the virtue of laziness, of taking time off, of not burning yourself out. Here's the thing: you'll have people that just go grind, and always trying to hustle, always working, and they could burn themselves out. Sometimes it's about learning to have a balance. And I mean, I've been through that. I was talking to a surveyor yesterday. You know, I was explaining how I had a whole lot of staff, a bigger firm. I couldn't be bothered anymore. It's not worth it. Scaling back, make more money, more balance. But that comes with time. That's something you need to learn. I wouldn't say is it anti-work or it's anti-bullshit?
Is a solid work day in your ideal society?
Sure. I mean, I think as much as people want. I mean, I personally work. I have like a 20-25 hour work weeks, which I think is fairly good.
I mean, this is a bit embarrassing here, where the moderator, Doreen, explains their job. Okay.
So I would like less work hours.
Less work hours than 25 hours a week. Okay, now I know there are going to be a whole lot of people watching this. All of you small business owners, or even your tradies, are going to be laughing your bloody ass off at someone who's doing 20 to 25 hours a week, wanting less. That's like 3 days for some people, guys. Seriously, 3 7-hour days.
What do you do, Doreen?
I'm a dog walker.
A dog walker.
So Doreen has a job that's very low skilled and really can't compete that much in the market. I mean, how can you value add to dog walking? Maybe washing, franchises that do that. I mean, do we even have dog walkers in Australia? It's just something I guess I'm not in that social level to have encountered that myself. Let me know in the comments if you've used the dog walker.
Okay.
Yes.
And how?
So
how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Sure, I'm 30.
You're 30. Okay.
So a 30-year-old dog walker, AntiWork. So this is where your life can get away from you. You spent 10 years, where have you gotten?
Okay. And is there something you want to do besides being a dog walker? Do you aspire to do anything more than dog walking, or is that kind of your pinnacle?
I love working with...
Oh, that's such... that's such a... Oh, is that your pinnacle? Is that your pinnacle, being a dog walker? I mean, honestly, 30-year-old, you should be aspiring for higher things. Okay, if you're happy being a dog walker, well, you know what the problem is? Spending too much time on bloody Reddit. That's not of any value, guys. At least it's not 4chan, or which one's better?
With dogs, if I had to do this for the rest of my life, I wouldn't be super complaining. Dogs are wonderful animals. But I would love to teach. I would love to, work with people and stuff like that.
What would you teach, Doreen?
Why do they always want to be teachers? Why do they always want to be teachers? Every single one of them. I mean, I've taught university level, everyone, and it can be fun. It can be frustrating. You can have a look at my tutorial YouTube channel. That started from having to teach a classroom of interior designers how to use software who couldn't even turn on a computer. So I guess that was good. It encouraged me to learn new skills and to do YouTube and that type of stuff. But why do they always want to teach? Do they think teaching is easy? It's quite a hard job. But I guess it's so unionized in America, you can pretty much get away with bugger all, can't you?
Philosophy mostly. Just introduction to philosophy, critical thinking, reason, stuff like that.
Okay. Well,
always philosophy. Well, I mean, Reddit, I guess, is a public forum to discuss these things.
I would love to take your class, Doreen. I would just be taking notes the whole time. And you know what? A professor's a very similar schedule than something that you're imagining. So I think that actually might work perfectly for you. Listen, I think this...
So, I mean, you can see the fidgeting that he's doing there, or she's doing there. That could, be signs of obsessive compulsive disorder. Maybe, they're not suited to having a real job. Or they need to work outdoors. I don't know. Or maybe I'm reading too much into someone being nervous talking to Fox News and getting hammered.
This might not be the greatest idea, but who am I to judge? To each their own, they say. It's a free country.
So, I mean, there we have the interview, guys. Obviously, Fox playing to their audience, making fun of a Reddit moderator who's exactly what you would expect. Exactly what you expect. Someone who wants to work less than 25 hours a week. Now, personally, I think that's utterly bullshit. If you want to get ahead, you got to work hard. You got to work smart. But that just comes with time and, well, with learning it. 30 years old, I wasn't a dog walker, everyone. I had a business. I was married. I was getting ahead. But to get there, it took a shitload of work, like a lot of work. I studied full-time and worked full-time at the same time to become an architect, everyone. One of the few courses that still did that, which was a fantastic opportunity for people that don't have the parental support to work for free for 2 years, which some people do in architecture. So I put a poll out there asking your opinion, viewers' opinions of this. So let's just look at the demo of the channel, majority Australian, 88% to 12% male to female. Most of you are millennials. We've got some boomers and Gen Xers with only a few little zoomers there, so that kind of gives you a breakdown to it. Now, I asked this poll on 3 platforms, on my YouTube, on Twitter, and on LinkedIn to get a bit of a breakdown. Now, you can see kind of a bias in the responses I put here. This is from my bias of just before I really started looking into this, just the idea of anti-work movement. I think it's named badly. Honestly, I really think it's named badly. So I had, why do you think people are attracted to the anti-work movement? Please leave comments below and we'll discuss it in a video in, well, a bit longer than a few days. So first one was laziness. They are just lazy bludgers, and 19% said that. And I'm sure some lazy bludgers are attracted to that. But how many of us are working and aspiring to reduce the amount of work that we have to do, who are anti-work? How many people in the FIRE movement want to minimize the work they do? Isn't the great Australian dream just one of investing in property to the point where you can all be a rent seeker, a landlord? So immature. Now, this is an interesting one, delaying starting families and responsibilities. I think particularly for men, if you don't have a family or anyone that you're responsible for, maybe you're going to be attracted to some of these bullshit fringe movements, the idea of not working and we're a utopia where everyone can get ahead for 20 hours a week. Having a family and getting responsibility, that changes a man. Upbringing, generational failure, 18% of you. We've all heard of families where it's intergenerational poverty, and then you've got a poverty trap. Or intergenerational welfare dependency, where they don't even know what it's like to work, to hold down a steady job. Ability, they don't have the ability to contribute. Only 4% said that. Now, I mean, I guess as a dog walker, you can contribute in some regards. I mean, if you were doing that, what would you do? Would you maybe get some employees, offer value add to additional services, do grooming, try and get subscription services, try and make more money, make a YouTube video about it, a whole series about dog walking to help people start these businesses, to lift themselves up? I mean, they're just some ideas off the top of my head, guys. So, systematic. 52% said it's unfair and rigged. Now, that really surprised me. That the system, do you really think the system is unfair and rigged? I mean, I would agree it's unfair, and there's a lot of bullshit going on, but you got to deal with it, guys. It always has been. It always will be. We're not going to we just did a video where the CBA is calling for the RBA to slow their rate rises. We're not in a free market, here in Australia particularly. So let's look at some of the comments, guys. And you can, if you want to have your comments appear in a video, jump into the community tab and take part in these polls. So the first one here, common ground. It's absolutely a systematic issue. Society, Aussie and American dream, has stopped paying a dividend. The payoff for going to work for middle-income earners is slipping away. Example, no longer can a Garbo doing his hard yakka and buy a house for his family valued at 3 to 4 times his annual income. Rising house prices have taken away incentive to work, and the only way to get a home for the Garbo is to reskill and get a 100K job along with his wife. That's probably got more to do with the issues here in Australia with regards to housing costs, because in the States, you certainly can. But then again, even back in the past, you still had certain demographics who were doing garbage jobs not able to buy a house. Basically, it takes 2 people earning well above the median income to achieve the Australian dream. For some people, it's far too difficult. Not everyone has the same intellectual learning capacity or takes far too much sacrifice. It's a deep intergenerational psychological issue wrapped up with the systematic economic issue. So I think Common Ground makes some very good points there. I mean, it's hopeless. If you feel like you're not going to get ahead, if you're not getting ahead, why even try? But that's a defeatist attitude then. Then you've already given up before you've even started the battle, everyone. Another comment from Interstallion. My initial answer was systematic. But once I thought it through more, I feel like it's still partly systematic, but also biological. If you pay most humans to stay at home but have no purpose, that's what they'll do. It makes biological sense that an organism will do the least it can to gain the most. This is the perverse issue with welfare. You incentivize people to not work. And in some ways, that's a dangerous thing. You're going to get used to it, and you'll lose skills. Another one from Liam. So, I think you needed to include peer pressure indoctrination. It's hard to go to university and have the lecturers presenting you with woke reasons and evidence at young age. You're told academics know best, so you go along with it all because you haven't been exposed to anything else. Now, that's an interesting comment there from Liam. I encountered this. We had a subject we did in final year or the year before final year. We had to develop a ethical map of the global implications of our final design decision. So we had to be quite rigorous with our systematic modeling. And it was all full of greenwashing, hippie shit. Because I'd started digging and found a whole lot of the basis of the arguments was unfounded. was based on very dodgy arguments or energy assessments or embodied energy calculations or carbon footprint. All of it that didn't stack up when you really dug into it. So that was actually spurred me to become quite skeptical, and it's just led on as I've gone. But other students, because I got a 7, a high distinction, I was brought back to the tutorate the year after, and I remember talking to young students going, and they were just blindly regurgitating what the lecturer said. And I go, well, of course, we had one lecturer, her whole idea was building this huge museum, and to offset the carbon footprint, you'd have these little bloody, like aquariums or little agrarium things inside the structure. The stupidest idea in the world. All this embodied energy demonstration. She's essentially making a sue and claiming it was carbon neutral because you planted things in there. Over the big scheme of things, it was ludicrous. And students would just regurgitate the same shit again and again, and all of them would end up doing green farms. And my argument was, you could ethically justify having like a supermarket or a nuclear power plant depending on the circumstance. If it created jobs, if it created opportunity, if the embodied energy was offset by the increased quality of life of the humans around it, then it would be worth it. But that was a little too nuanced for some of the students. They just like to blindly repeat the same shit they were said. And that got me really angry. I was really anxious and stressed about that, and I had to quit. I only did it for 1 year, and I couldn't do it anymore because they weren't challenging it at all. That's university. You're meant to have critical thinking. This is master's levels. So then, Scotty is saying, I will say, even as a business owner, we're incentivized to outsource HR, legal administration, compliance, IT, accounting, etc. In employing people sees us punished with 30% plus payroll. Then we take all the risks if the employer decides to take us court on an accusation. And he's highlighting the fact that all these people are bitching and moaning about how unfair it is, how tough it is to work, when they're not taking on any of the risk. Really. They've got, how many of the people in the anti-work movement do you think have ever run a business? I'm sure a lot of them had. But a lot of people, you run a business and you get over it and you find something else and you appreciate how easy it is. So, amazing Andy. If I have to rent for my entire life, I have very little chance of improving my station, so renting as a door bludger is just as good as renting as an underpaid serf. Now, I see this type of comment and I can completely understand where Andy's coming from. Completely get it. But also, upskill. Get a better job. If you don't have the intellectual capacity, do something else. How many people have we read about that are, Macca's workers that have been able to build a property portfolio? Go investigate the FIRE movement. Work hard and save. Invest. Generate a passive income. Just go in bloody, dividend-producing exchange-traded funds. You don't need to have super high capacity to understand that. So you don't have to do the crappy jobs. But this is the thing. It requires sacrifice and effort. You're not going to get it on 25 hours a week being a dog walker. Nathan, mix of both, mate. As a young person today, you're given a framework for success that doesn't work anymore. School, uni, job, house. People follow the rules and get disheartened when there's no job or little pay at the end. We're sold an expensive promise, paid for with debt, and we gotta lie. I would assert that this is one of the core influences, the social culture in young people that the laziness grows from. Yeah, it's losing hope, isn't it? It's hopelessness. Is that what we're seeing here? That people just haven't got a hope to get ahead. So they've given up. Drop Bear. Another one. School teaches you to be an obedient taxpayer and not much else. I didn't go to school. Well, left in 5th grade, same as Mark Twain. I never let my schooling interfere with my education. Now, we have decided to leave the distance education school that we're involved with because they've had a dramatic change in their pedagogical approach. They're no longer realizing that parents are the teachers, we're just the assistants. So we're going full homeschooling and we're developing a new curriculum. We've got the fundamentals, reading, writing, arithmetic, but then we'll have practical unit-based explorations of particular topics to meet everything else. Because I feel like schooling, the curriculum is just so full of stuff and they overload it. And you want kids to be able to adapt and learn. So yeah, I agree with him there. It is an outdated method that teaches you to be an obedient taxpayer. And if you go along with the rules, it is a lie. And here, the final YouTube comment that I pulled out. All of those answers in the poll are incorrect. It's simply living life by your own terms. I agree with him there. And that shows you the framing of the anti-work movement is bullshit. There's also a growing amount of people living FIRE. Now, FIRE is financially independent and retire early. And this is where people usually go, like, cut their costs down to nothing and work insanely hard to get to a position where they don't need to work. And I would bet a carton that they're still going to work, but the difference is you've got the freedom. That's the secret, guys, to being happy, is having control over your own schedule. You don't need piles of money. Okay, you don't need as much money as you realize. You just need control over your own schedule. What am I doing today? I did a whole lot of free proposals yesterday. Today I've got to detach this part of the house from that part of the house. So I've got to go do some sawing, got to dig up some pipes, really get set for the lift. We finally had the house set out, so we're going to lift and move. So I've got the flexibility to do that. For the last few years, I've had much more freedom than ever in my life, and it's the happiest I've ever been. The less, sure, you've got stress, but that's, healthy. When you've got certain things you've got to get done. Yeah. So I said he's not anti-work. Personally, I'm not anti-work, but I'm anti-working long hours in an industry I hate for peanuts. Now, that's right. That's right. So what you do is you don't go on bloody Reddit and bitch and moan that your 20-hour dog walking job isn't setting you up for life. You sort your shit out and you get ahead. Here's the thing. The biggest thing about the biggest trick here is if you get people associating with this whole anti-work crowd, it's going to be a stain on their personality. They're going to be associated with all these dog walking people who are complaining and want to teach philosophy. That's going to take away from people who have legitimate concerns with being stuck in a shit job or a shit industry and wanting to better themselves and get out of it. It can be tough. So, and I said he's not anti-work. Exactly, I mentioned that I wasn't anti-work. This links, which has snippets of an interview that the one anti-work founders took part in, suggests that perhaps its members are on a spectrum and not wanting to work at all, to working jobs that align with terms that someone wants to live by. But that's about you as an individual sorting yourself out. If you're not happy, it's your job to fix it. No one else's. It's not society's. It's not another person. It's not your family. It's your responsibility. Is that too? Am I too old-fashioned now? Am I evolving into boomer mode to think like that? That it's the individual's responsibility to sort their shit out. Is that an outdated concept? Let me know in the comments, guys, because I'm starting to think I'm getting old. So Editor was saying, same here. I'm sick of doing jobs that create real value when a parking inspector makes 4 times my income. Well, Editor, you got to change your job, mate. Or this is the problem. When you have, civil servants, unionized civil servants artificially inflate their wages for their own needs. This is what happens. You need to have your own cartel fighting for you and make everyone else pay for it. That's why taxes are so high. But kind of off topic. So, Twitter. I asked it on Twitter, guys. Now, for Twitter and LinkedIn, I can only do 4 questions, so it's a little different. But it's interesting to see. I mean, the system is unfair with 76.6% in Twitter. I mean, Twitter is a bit of a leftist cesspool, but it still is higher. So they're either lazy or it's unfair. Not many are mature or not many think for the upbringing. And some of the comments here that we have. From Lee. The subreddit was poorly named, and I agree with him here. Anyone who spent 5 minutes reading the post could see the members weren't against working. They were typically hospitality workers being exploited by terrible managers who want a fairer balance between the returns on capital and the returns on labor. So there you go. I mean, is that just a challenging industry? We've seen here in Australia, hospitality workers get some of the highest wages in the world. And then you have places like McDonald's incentivized to automate checkouts. You've got places like Coles and Woolies all bringing out automatic checkouts, guys. Will is saying, there's no incentive for people to get out there and add actual value. Actually, the people that add value, the small businesses and innovators, have been punished because people that add no value are getting rewarded. I mean, yeah, honestly, I would say that it feels like it's true, and it depends. I would say here in Australia we have this issue with a incentive to jump on the housing bandwagon that de-incentivizes businesses and small innovation. Why start a business when your house has made more money in a year of capital growth than you would in a year of just slogging it out running a business? So Nathan, if millennials had it like boomers, with 2x income to property prices, the so-called lazy could probably afford 5 houses by their mid-30s. Not advocating for anyone owning 5 houses, just keep it going. Zoomers maybe get that that price to income 25x. This is, I mean, we're seeing a trend here in a lot of the comments where just a frustration with, well, getting the life that previous generations had. It's not the same. It's never going to be the same now. Now, LinkedIn. I asked this on LinkedIn because, you get different audiences on all of these platforms. LinkedIn's become a real woke mess, honestly. And here again, it was only 4 questions. So we only had 32 responses because you can see who responded and how they responded. So people, it's not a blind poll. 44% said lazy, 41% said unfair and rigged. So more people on Twitter. So Twitter is the majority of people who think it's unfair, where more people think you're lazy on LinkedIn than it's unfair and rigged, but still higher than immaturity and ability. And some of the comments here. I'm actually unsure what you mean. There you go. You've got another one. Grand. So there must be a dividend for advances in computer technology, automation, and robotization. That should be more flexible work times and more leisure times. I, for one, do not agree with the idea that self-flagellation and work yourself to death is a virtue. Now, I mean, we've been... In my industry, we were told that you'll be able to, with all the computer software that allows you to generate drawings a lot quicker, you'll have more time to design, more time to do this. No, it's all bullshit. You just have to, you have less time to do everything because you can generate the documents faster. Time frames shrink. So it's a competitive environment. That's how it is. And, I mean, you don't want to work yourself to death. But that's a lesson that people have to learn. So let's have a bit of a talk about this one. So what do you reckon? Are you anti-work or are you anti-shit work? Honestly, I think the issue is here, if you go into these groups and you get stuck in the trap that you're a victim and others are to blame, then you've lost. If you go into this and realize, this situation I am in is bullshit, it's unfair, I'm going to do what I have to get out of it, I'm going to upskill, I'm going to do something else, I'm going to create other opportunities, I'm going to take what I have and make the most of it, they're the 2 worldviews. I think it would be fantastic if you get to a point, the goal is to minimize, well, I wouldn't even say minimize the work you have. I think that's wrong. I think the goal should be maximize your personal flexibility. That's what it should be. It should be flexible work. And that's what people should aspire to. But here's the kicker, guys. To get to that, you've got to work bloody hard, okay? Sure, some people may get lucky, they buy some stupid meme coin and it goes to the moon and they got a whole shitload of money. Fantastic. You can't count on that. You can't count on that. You want to get there, you got to work hard. What do you reckon, guys? Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Now, if you like the channel, please leave your comments, likes, and support down below. Let me know your take on this one. Am I becoming an old boomer? Is hard work just so old-fashioned? If you want to support us, you can join us on YouTube or Patreon. Sign up for SelfWealth or Stake for the share trading. Use our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. Buy our merch from HeiseSays. Use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. And I want to refer you to this recent video I did about US inflation at a 40-year high, 7.5%. Another thing that will probably add to people's frustrations, well, their wages aren't growing as much as their food is. Take care. I'll see you next time.